Hey, Forge fans, Anthony Urcioli here. It's the Forge Audio Network, the official home of your reigning, defending, undisputed Canadian Premier League champions, Forge FC. It's match day preview, and this is a first. Never before have we previewed a match between Forge FC and Vancouver FC. The expansion squad off to a pretty good start. 5 matches in, 5 points, tied for 4th, it's early, but would put them in a playoff spot. Coming off a really tough loss where they gave up 5 goals, though. So our goals against does not look good right now, but it's a little misleading and inflated because they got blown away by Atletico Ottawa in their last match. But a major opportunity if you're Vancouver. You're going into Hamilton, Tim Hortons Field, you get the big stadium. You are playing against the class of the Canadian Premier League. 4 straight championship appearances, 3 wins in the last 4 seasons. An amazing opportunity if you're Vancouver FC, and exciting if you're a Vancouver FC player. If you're Forge, it's an opportunity to continue rolling, right? 11 points through 5 matches. They are on top of the CPL table. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but it's worth pointing out. A club that has not started the way they wanted to so far. Look, I mentioned 3 titles in 4 seasons, 4 finals appearances, yet they have not had great starts to their season. In some cases, they've had outright bad starts to their seasons, but they have hit the ground running from day one, which is scary if you are the rest of the CPL, because based on this team's track record, they get better and better as the season goes on. So what does that mean? Could mean trouble for the rest of the Canadian Premier League. Forge, though, coming off, 3 straight wins, pair of draws before that. They've not lost yet this season. I'm not even going to knock on wood because I'm not superstitious, but so far so good for Forge FC. But we know what we're getting with Forge. What are we getting with Vancouver? That's the question here. And to help us, Mitchell Tierney, analyst, CanPL.ca, joins us to giving the lowdown on the brand new expansion club, Vancouver FC.
Well, up until the last match, I said you could have expected a side that was, very tactically disciplined, defensively solid, with, a couple of players who can really hurt you going the other way offensively. But obviously, that went out the window a little bit with I guess it's hard to say uncharacteristic performance when you've only seen, 5 or 6 performances from a side, but with one that was certainly an outlier with what's happened so far. But I think we can lean more towards, they're going to be well organized. They play well defensively. We'll see who they have in their lineup. Obviously, they'll be missing Rocco Romeo, who is a very key player for them at the back through suspension for this game. So that's going to be something to watch out for. But otherwise, I think that you can expect them to be tough to break down. And like I said, with guys like Sandoval and Hundal going the other way, they're always capable of hurting you on the counterattack.
Yeah, I know it's early, but Hundal for Vancouver, he has scored 75% of their goals to this point this season. So he is their guy, the guy that's driven things on offense. Give us kind of the lowdown on him. I know he's from Brampton. I know he came up through the the TFC program. What are we looking at here? What can we expect from Hundal?
Yeah, a player who, like you said, spent some time with the Toronto FC Academy, spent some time with the youth national teams as well. So a solid pedigree there. Prior to this was with Inter Miami's second team, actually, and did quite well there in USL League One, I think it was, before jumping into, obviously, MLS Next as it became last year. So a player who scored a lot of goals, wherever he's gone. Maybe hasn't made that top step yet, but certainly one of the players in terms of attackers in this league who has shown to be incredibly dangerous and just solid at getting in those good positions. Maybe somewhat similar from a Forge perspective to a Woobens in terms of how he plays. Maybe a little bit less dynamic, but a lot of similar stuff there.
Yeah, another interesting storyline then is Hundal versus this Forge. Not just the back line. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. He's going to see a lot Hundal as an attacker. You can't really hide attackers like Hundal, so he's going to have to go up against Mandrakar James. Um, it could be Ashton Yodi Janssen. It could be Hojab Rapport playing midfield. Either way, he's going to get a heavy dose of Forge's best defenders, and there are guys that can match up against anybody. But is that kind of something you're looking at? It seems like kind of an exciting matchup for Hundal to face some of these very strong defenders on Forge FC.
Yeah, one of the other storylines to watch too, though, is who can get him the ball, because two of those key playmakers for Vancouver left the game early and late in the game this past weekend against Ottawa. That being Caden Chung, who's been converted into a midfielder and has been a very key guy in terms of progressing the ball, and Gabby Bitar, who's really been the heartbeat of their offense in terms of setting up chances. So that's going to be a real question, and we haven't had the chance to talk to Afshin Gotbi about that quite yet. That'll happen tomorrow. So a little more information then, but that'll be something I'm watching for. But yeah, certainly, I mean, it's going to be a tough player for Forge to deal with, and someone who they're always going to have to, they like to play that, defensive while having possession kind of style. And that's going to be their guy to kind of always keep an eye on and be like, okay, where is Hundal on the pitch, even when they have the ball?
The big storyline for Forge, especially to start the year, great problem to have, but possibly a problem nevertheless. A lot of depth, only so many minutes to go around, a lot of talent, sometimes sitting on the bench, but it's the nature of playing on a team like this that has some lofty aspirations. Your assessment of Forge and head coach Bobby Smirniotis, and how he's handled his lineup and how he's kind of spread out the minutes so far.
Yeah, I think it's certainly, I mean, in terms of the early success, even, I think it's gone a little bit better than past years in terms of just being able to get players into good positions, find good chemistry together. And, Jordan Hamilton's going, Rubens Pacius is going. Basically anyone who comes off the bench seems to be doing solid. We saw Kwesi Poku get a goal this week. I mean, they're getting contributions from all these players, whereas last year it seemed like they were rotating because, especially offensively, they were having trouble finding a guy who could consistently be in form. Sorry, I should have mentioned Taron Campbell as well, who I think has been even better this year than he was last year for Forge, and he's starting to set up a little bit better in Bobby's tactical system. So, I've liked the way he's managed minutes, and this year it seems more like these are guys competing for that position, whereas last year it was more about trying to get one of them going, which they were able to do at least towards the end with Rubens. But yeah, I think that there's a real competition right now up front that is making this Forge team so dangerous.
One guy who has not shown up on the score sheet, but has maybe been, let's say, one of the best players for Forge FC in terms of just driving play, driving the offense, being dynamic. Tristan Borges. Now, it's again, he's not showing up on the score sheet like he has in the past. He hasn't been the guy in terms of putting up numbers, but he has been the guy in just driving play. I mean, the dynamic. What Borges brings, it's rare, it's hard to find. He's creating, but again, his name isn't necessarily showing up on the score sheet. But your assessment of Tristan Borges and the season he's had to this point?
It's a great observation, and I think one of the main ways is just the way he is more active defensively, pressuring situations, winning balls back high up the field in ways that we maybe haven't seen in past years. Also, his fearlessness to dribble at players, and that creates opening for other players up the field in different situations like that. I mean, he's consistently going into battles, be that with the ball or without the ball, and not shying away from those tough positions this season. So I think that those have been two ways that have really seen progression in his game. And again, those aren't the flashy ways, like you said, that maybe he's done in the past, but the workman-like ways that have made him such an integral part to this team. So while he's not scoring and while he's maybe not assisting at the clip you would expect, this has been an excellent season from Tristan Borges so far. And there's a lot to like about, what he's done and how successful that's going to make Forge if he can keep this up.
I wonder about the Vancouver mindset going into this match. Are they looking at it as an opportunity? Is it exciting? They're playing Forge, their first ever game, in Hamilton, Tim Hortons Field. You got the big stadium. You're looking up, you're seeing all the championships Forge have won. You can approach this in different ways. Is it nerves? Is it intimidating? Is it excitement? Try your best to kind of get into the minds here of Vancouver and its staff. And how do you think they're approaching this matchup against Forge?
Yeah, I'd hope from their perspective it's excitement, because I don't think they have much to lose. They've already picked up a solid amount of points to start this season. They're in and around that. Obviously it's way too early to talk about the playoff bubble, but they're not falling behind by any means. They have 5 points, and again, they've only played twice at home, so I think there's a lot of potential points still on the table for them. So, I think this is one where they just come in, they get to test themselves against, the club that has been the standard setter in this league so far in terms of results. So it's an excellent opportunity there for them, I think.
All right. And Forge fans, you can be part of history. This is the first time Forge is playing Vancouver, the first time Vancouver's playing in Hamilton. You can be there to see it live. What better way to spend a Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff, Tim Hortons Field, forgefc.ca/tickets. Now you may be asking, what does Forge have to do to secure 3 points in this match? I got great news for you. I'm going to give you 3 keys that will help catapult Forge FC to victory. Key number 1 for Forge FC. Hunker down on Hundal. Sean Singh Hundal. So far, yes, it's early. You heard me talking to Mitchell about it. But he is responsible for 75% of Vancouver's offense this season. He has 3 of Vancouver's 4 goals through 5 matches. So as Vancouver searches for an identity in their inaugural season, Forge needs to make sure Hundal doesn't appear on the score sheet. Maybe Vancouver has other guys that can step up and score goals, but force them to figure it out. Don't help them. Until they show they can balance their scoring out, the Forge backline, the midfielders need to make life miserable for the Brampton native Hundal. Key number 2 for Forge FC. You've heard us stop the presses, right? We're going to start the presses. This is new territory for Vancouver. Expansion Club making their first ever trip to Hamilton to face the league juggernauts. You expect Vancouver to battle some nerves, especially early. Ball gets kicked off. Forge needs to be in their opponents' faces, employing that high-intensity pressing game, disrupting Vancouver's builds, forcing turnovers in Vancouver's defensive third, maintaining a high work rate and pressing collectively as a team, putting pressure on Vancouver and creating some scoring opportunities that way. So start the presses, key number 2. Key number 3 for Forge FC. Clinical finish. Forge scored 3 goals in their last match, a win. The win over Valor. Coach Bobby Smirniotis said after the match that his club should have had more. And he's technically right. Forge leads the league in shots on target and shooting percentage. 57% of their attempts are hitting the target. Now, if you need context in terms of how big of a number that is, the next best shooting percentage belongs to Ottawa, who's at 48%. Now, despite being nearly 10 percentage points better than Ottawa, the 2 clubs are tied in goals per match at 1.6, are Forge and Ottawa. So all signs are pointing toward Forge running roughshod over their opponents on the score sheet, but they haven't been able to separate themselves just yet. So more precision inside the area, more clinical finishing will almost guarantee victory on a match-to-match basis. Those are your 3 keys. You can listen and figure out what the result is after, or you can see if those 3 keys are put to the test in person. forgefc.ca/tickets. Be a part of history. Vancouver's first ever trip to Tim Hortons Field. Okay, I'm going to be there, and I hope to see you there.